Hello and welcome to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney, and you have found the place where we talk about estate planning, elder law, real estate, and business law. You can give us a call if you'd like to. That's right. You'll be the first caller of the new year, 2023. What a year that's going to be, huh? Be the first caller. Why not? Out with Methuselah and with the baby, right? Isn't that how that usually works? Anyway, 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. If you'd like to get your question, comment, or concern on the air. And, of course, we deal with anything you want. I mean, we're very open-minded here, I must say. But if you'd like to talk about estate planning, elder law, real estate, or business law, well, my goodness, then we'd be really appreciative. So if you want to talk about wills, trusts, probate, powers of attorney, what is that probate court all about anyway? I mean, I know it's just a den of iniquity, isn't it? It's just there to do horrible things. Well, no, of course it isn't. Actually, there's a very good reason for it. And we can explain that to you if you'd care. We also deal, of course, with the elder law. Elder law is the little teeny tiny bit of estate planning. It has to do with hanging on to your stuff while you're alive. Maybe that would be a good idea, huh? What do you think? They call it elder law because that's what they call it, but I'm sure there's a better name. Life planning is what we call it, life planning. It's not about death planning. That's the estate planning is death. Ooh, death. But what if we were trying to figure out how to live most efficiently, live most prosperously, live most securely? That's really what life planning is all about. So you could call it all those things. You could call it instead of elder law, you could call it prosperity law, abundance law. You could call it that. Security law, you could call it that. I suppose those are names I've already taken. Oh well, it's stuck with elder law. There you are. We also deal with real estate. Real estate is property, right? Stuff that's attached to the ground. So whether you have a skyscraper or the sheriff's shepherd's cottage, right? a little shotgun shack, whatever it is you have. Well, that's real estate. So if you're wondering about that, give us a shout. 616-774-2424. And finally, of course, business law. To my way of thinking, this is one of the most important and overlooked areas. We've had the privilege over the last few months of talking to literally thousands of businesses, not me personally, but through the team, literally thousands of businesses on the employee retention tax credit. You may have heard of this. It's all over the place. Advertising, people advertising, oh, do this. And there's good ways to do it, and there's bad ways to do it. And we've seen a lot of the not so great ways that other folks are doing it. But if you do it correctly, it can be, and it has been for literally thousands of businesses that we've dealt with so far, it can be a real lifeline, a real godsend to keep the business going despite the recession. And the recession is real. There really is one. I know they're trying to tell you there isn't, but there is. No one would have any doubt about it if it weren't for the complicity of the media mavens and hiding the truth from you, and inflation, and not being able to find workers, and everything else. So for a lot of small business owners, a lot of small business people, this ERTC, although it's late, a couple of years late for the pandemic, which is what the intention was, kind of figures the government shows up after, it's like they say about some fire departments, they're foundation savers. Oh, we saved the foundation. We're good. Well, the ERTC was intended to provide relief during the pandemic. Didn't do that. Because why? The pandemic was over by the time people figured out what the heck was going on with it. There were other things, other ways that the government shoveled money out the door, PPP grants. I mean, there's still lots of municipalities don't know what to do with all the money they got from the COVID. right, from COVID program. They don't know what to do with it. So, well, small business owners know what to do with it, namely keep people employed, namely continue on despite very, very trying times. There have been quite a few nonprofits, for example, you see that kept going based on COVID money. And now that that's over and done with, they're kind of looking around thinking, oh, now what do we do? Well, small business owners are very different. Small business owners, they've got to make payroll. They've got to keep people going. They've got to figure this thing out. And the ERTC, the Employee Retention Tax Credit, think about what it says: employee retention. You don't get any money unless you kept people employed. That's the deal. If you didn't keep them employed, you don't get anything. So these are the folks who did keep folks employed, your neighbors, maybe yourself, right? And it's a way to sort of stretch out that relief so that despite the recession, despite hyperinflation, despite all the stuff that we're putting up with now, right? In spite of all of that, they can keep you employed. They can keep people working. They can keep the economy moving along. That's the whole point. And the thing is, in now having been involved personally with hundreds, but with the organization as a whole, with thousands, it really, you know what it's like. I'll tell you what it's like. It's like hanging out with the Boy Scouts, okay, which I hadn't done until my kid joined up a few years ago. And you're dealing, and I've already shared with you my experience this past summer at the went to the Boy Scout camp, and I figured, well, great, I got a week of laying in my hammock, and not too much, and got drafted into teaching all day long sessions of merit badges. And of course, they didn't pick me for rifle or shotgun or knot tying or axe throwing or anything fun. I got to do citizenship, right? Citizenship in the nation, citizenship in the world, and I have to tell you, it was really I don't regret a moment of it. It was very, very reassuring to know that there are so many kids out there. At least the kids who showed up for my merit badge classes. Gotta say, so many kids out there who are like tuned in, turned on. They didn't drop out. They're doing the good thing. You know what I'm saying? Sharp kids, aware of what's going on, opinionated, and with reasons for their opinions. It's one thing to be opinionated. I mean, everybody's opinionated, I suppose. Don't you love it when somebody says, "Well, that's just your opinion"? Well, whose else's opinion am I supposed to have? Come on now. So that the fact that somebody has an opinion, that's unimpressive. What is impressive is when someone can back it up. They can give you the reasons, the history, and maybe you disagree with them. You can disagree. That's part of it, right? Or maybe you think they took it too far or not far enough or what have you. But they have opinions and they have backed up. And so it's was very reassuring to deal with the Boy Scouts. And the girls too. I mean, it's Scouting of America or whatever they call it nowadays. It was mostly boys, but it wasn't only boys. And so that's all good. But my point is, I'm getting to my point. Dealing with these small business owners, it reminds you that there's an America out there that is self-sufficient, that there's an America out there. There are people in America who want nothing more than the opportunity to work really hard, really long hours, work with other people, follow the rules, do the right thing. It's like there's so many of them out there, and you tend not to see even me, in where I sit in the world, looking for folks like that, working with folks like that. You don't quite realize just how many folks are out there who really do hold to the American dream. And this has been a great way to touch base with quite a few of them. It's very reassuring, I have to tell you. You get to feeling kind of lonely that maybe there aren't people who, other than you guys, my listeners, of course, you guys get it. Clients get it. But this is a coast to coast thing. And so we're talking to people in California, we're talking to people in New England, down south, up north, everywhere. And that common sense, that that urge, that desire to get it right, to do the right thing, it's still there. It really is. I mean, you can get down in the mouth about it, but don't you dare. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Welcome back to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. And don't we all want just a little respect? Just a little respect. RESPECT. Find out what it means to me? Yeah, just a little bit. Anyway, so what are we going to do in 2023? Well, first of all, you can call 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. 24. And now I can say 41 years practicing law. That's right. 1982 when I got sworn in, and now it's 2023. Talk about a long, strange trip. You know, it has been. It's been a long, strange trip it's been. But at the end of the day, we're still smiling, right? Still having a good time, still enjoying life. That's I think that's important. Anyway, yeah, isn't that crazy? And since I got the firm started in 20 what was it, 1990? It must have been 1990, yeah. Back in the 1900s, back in the last century. Yeah, that's when we started this thing. Which I have no accents at all. I know it's terrible. Anyway, yeah, back in 1990. So it's 33 years. How about that? 33 years at the same lemonade stand. You know, not bad. Not bad for an old man. But anyway, yeah, and we, you know, and frankly, I've been a one-trick pony like the whole time. You know what I mean? I mean, because seriously, well, when you start out, you know, and you know, I know it's what the hell. So I went to Notre Dame, you know, because mom wanted me to, and I had no idea. I'm from Cape Cod originally. I had no idea what the hell was going on with Notre Dame or anything like that. I heard of Newt Rockney, I guess, but I was not a fan. I was not. I didn't know. I knew it was Catholic. I was Catholic. It was, and my mom's like, "Oh, it's a big Catholic school." This was her idea, and they're rich, right? And so you'll do well and get a scholarship. Well, okay, good plan, you know, because it wasn't like I could afford it, and certainly with, you know, 7 more kids in the family besides me, 6 more younger than me. It wasn't like they were going to chip in, mom and dad. It was like, hey, you're going to go figure it out. So I did scrape together enough dishwashing, paper route, and local scholarship money enough to make the first year, although I did work to pay the room and board because it still wasn't enough. But I did make it through the first year, which was, you know, like $5,000. It's like, woo. Back then, you know, it might as well have been 25. And nowadays, of course, it's in the 60s or 70s. I don't know. It's absolutely shamefully ridiculous given them. Anyway, let's not get sidetracked. So anyway, why did I go to Notre Dame? Because mom wanted me to, and I had enough for the first year. So why not? Then fortunately, as soon as I got on campus, I joined the ROTC, Army ROTC, and eventually did get a scholarship. But mom was wrong. Everything, every fact. Remember we were talking before about opinions? Everyone gets their own opinion. Well, mom had very strong opinions about Notre Dame and no facts to back it up. Oh, it's a big school. It was a small school. It still is. You know, there's 7,000 kids there. I mean, that's what it is. So it's not a big school. Oh, and it's rich. Well, it is now, but I got to tell you, back then, you know, in the 70s, 75, going to Notre Dame was like being at home for me because all they ever did was piss and moan about money. Oh, we don't get enough money to do this. Oh, we had the old field house, you know, the old gym field house was in the center of campus. Now today it's a garden with fountains and Stonehenge and every other dang thing. But back then it was a half fallen in pile of rubble. I am not kidding you. It was this big old building and condemned. most of it, and it had fallen, and we still used it. They had the art students had their pottery kilns, the things they baked the pots in, were set up in the old field house, and the walls had tumbled in, and part of the roof was caved in. Oh, we don't have enough money to clean it up. Okay, fine. Eventually, they sold the bricks for like $100 each. Not too stupid, but back in the day, and I was on the rowing team, and we used part of it to repair boats. That's what it was. And so anyway, made it through there on the Army dime. Thank you, American taxpayers. Then they wanted me to go military intelligence. Well, I didn't feel like doing that. Actually, it wasn't my first choice compared to everything else. First non-combat arms choice. And so I got that instead of armor or infantry or something, field artillery. And then somebody said, hey, you could go to law school if you wanted. They'll give you time off to do that. I was like, why not? So I worked my way through Boston University Law School. And again, it was the same deal. I mean, and back then you could do that. Back then you could earn enough money in the summer and then while working to actually make a difference. Can't do that anymore. The world has, you can say what you want about kids these days. But when you look at the possibilities that we had versus the possibilities that they have, and part of it is us. I mean, part of us, my parents were like, you want to take the money that you saved, now that you get the Army scholarship, you want to take the money that you saved and buy a used van, and run people back and forth and make money doing it. God bless you. And it wasn't even like that because I didn't even ask. I just did it. Can you imagine that these days? Yeah, I'm going to buy a van and throw 10 kids in it. I'm going to charge them $50 and I'll have my room and board paid for. What a brilliant idea. And I didn't ask permission to do that. I just did it. Can you imagine a kid today doing that? I can't. Or the parents letting them. You can't even imagine it. And then when when the old van broke down, and if you want to know more details about that, 774-2424, area code 616-774-2424, and I can tell you stories. But kids can't do that anymore. And when I went to law school, I was talking about New Year's Eve with a buddy of mine the other day, and my New Year's Eve I love New Year's Eve because in the holidays, because you get paid double. I was a security guard, and I would go up to the top roof and, you could see the fireworks, in Cambridge, you could see the fireworks over in Boston. And, that was my New Year's Eve, but I was happy as a clam at high tide, because they were paying double the minimum wage, a little bit better, like 25 cents more than minimum wage. But you and I had that opportunity. We could do that. Maybe there are other opportunities for kids these days, kind of the online stuff. But boy, you have to be sharp to do that. You know what I mean? You really have to be very sharp to get that. Whereas back then, all you had to do was be willing to work hard and persevere and stuff like that, and you could make it. And it wasn't that far out of reach. Tell a kid, hey, tuition $60,000, go earn it. It isn't happening. You can't even do that math. Whereas $5,000 back then, it was a lot. It was a ridiculous amount of money, but you could still kind of see it. You know what I mean? You could still make that happen. So, and here we are in 2023, and who knows what God has in store for us this year? Who knows what we have in store for each other? Remember, that's the most important thing. What do you have in store for your neighbor? What do you have in store for your fellow Americans? That's what matters more than anything else, seems like to me. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show, and I'll be happy to get off my philosophic jag as soon as somebody gives me a call at 616-774-2424. Or I can go to the emails and we could do that. Either way. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Welcome back to the David Carrier Show. I'm still David Carrier. Even though it is 2023, 33 years of doing this stuff, and 42 years practicing. Sooner or later, I'll get better. That's my promise to you. That if I if I practice long enough, 4 decades ain't enough. That sooner or later we'll get halfway decent at it, as my father would say. Yeah, be halfway decent. Anyway, I just heard a news report that California is all in an uproar. You know why? I mean, like Buffalo got feet of snow, right? And they're complaining about that. Well, you can kind of understand it. Can't understand the looters who went out and smashed and grabbed everything, TVs and whatnot, because it snowed outside. But in California, they're like, California got hammered by what? What? Typhoon? Hurricane? Tornadoes? Did the Yetis come out of the mountains? Right? Did the ghost of Ansel Adams arise and do? No. You know what they got hammered by? Rain. Hammered by rain. Look, I'm sorry if your idea of running a state does not include rain. It's like speechless. I'm speechless. Hammered by rain. Oh my goodness, it rained. Yeah, because it never rains. Well, wasn't there a song like that? Never rains in California or whatever. But they do warn you, it doesn't rain, it pours. So there you go. Anyway, 616-774-2424. And now we're going to get to some legal stuff. How about that? I know you're disappointed. You want to hear me meander more. Anyway, so here's our email. And this is right along with the commentary because it's pretty random. What happens if I get an order of protection form power of attorney? Okay, well, here's the thing. A protective order is something you get from probate court. A protective order that you don't have to do a full-fledged guardianship or conservatorship, but if you have an issue, you know what I mean, like something small that's going on, like you want a ladybird deed, but the person's incompetent and they can't help you out, or you need to move just something small, you know what I mean, just a transactional thing, and you don't need a approval for the sale or something like this, something kind of small, then you go for what we call a protective order. And you say to the judge, hey, judge, here's what's going on. And you say it to all the interested parties. And I can't get these people to agree with me. So I want to give them an opportunity to show up, piss and moan if that's what they want to do. Come on down. Complain. This is your opportunity. All right. You want to contest this? Bring it. All right. Enter the squared circle, which, of course, they don't do 98, 99, 100 times out of 100. 99.99. They don't show up. They'll complain. People will complain, but they won't show up in court to push it. That's just reality because they didn't really have anything. But it's easy to flap your gums and complain about stuff. People like to. So okay. So you do a protective order. And you say, hey, judgy wudgy, here's what I think ought to happen, and you grease the skids. So that is what happens, right? You get the order all set and ready to go. And then you give notice and opportunity to be heard to everybody who might object to it. All right. That's a protective order. They're very useful. We use a lot of them, especially with people who haven't done their planning. And we need just a little bit of help, from the court. So protective order is the way to go frequently in those cases. So you don't have to do a full-fledged guardianship. You don't have to do a full-fledged conservatorship. Okay. You can just, if that's not what you need, you may not need it, and what's the old saying? If all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? Well, you get a lot of folks out there for whom everything looks like a nail, and the hammer is guardianship or conservatorship, full-blown probate court involvement. And we just had a case last week, right? Between the holidays where there were powers of attorney in place, there's a trust in place, everything else. You didn't need to go to probate court at all. But somebody said, oh, you need to go to probate court. Somebody who didn't know what they were talking about, typically. And because that's what they'd always done, the person at the nursing home, or I don't even know where it was. Nursing home would be typical. Or maybe it was cousin Charlie from down the street, or neighbor, or somebody said, "Oh, you got to go to probate court for that." No way, no how did they need to go to probate court, but somebody in a position of authority, or allowed to be in a position of authority, or they took it as credence or whatever. Then they went to probate court. It's just like completely worthless. And now the estate plan gets thrown out. Not ours, thank God. But, because they would have called us, because it's always a free phone call. It's always a free visit, right? And we would have told them, hey, there's no way on God's green earth that you need to go to probate court on this. And reviewing the case, there is no way. It was just bad advice. Anyway, you don't need to go that far, right? Even if you do need help from the probate court, because you can do the protective order. A power of attorney is the other thing. A power of attorney is a private relationship that you set up, okay, where you say, I trust this person to make those decisions for me. I don't need the court to get involved, okay? So when they say, I made my cousin, let's see, what happens if I get an order of protection form power of attorney? That's it's gibberish. It's like, what if I get a black-white one? What if I get a white-black one? It's like, what? You can't do both. What happens to my money? Sign it back to ? Who knows what that means? It says, I made my cousin my DPS. And I presume by that they mean durable power of attorney, because S is close to A, and they probably meant DPA, right? I'm guessing. Over my inheritance. Now, you'll appreciate this. So Social Security wouldn't find it. I made my cousin my DPA. I'm assuming it's DPA, durable power of attorney, over my inheritance, so Social Security wouldn't find it. Okay, so now we're doing Social Security fraud, right? Like right up front, that's what I'm a criminal. Here I am, frauding Social Security. Now, maybe that's bad. Maybe you can't do that. Maybe you can't still have your Social Security. But if you're on disability, you can have it. It's like the Bible says. The thief runs where no one pursues. This person's running away from something they didn't need to run away from, because it wasn't bad. It wasn't going to hurt them. But I don't even talk things through with my cousin. It's like her mom took over it says took over the DPA when I only added my cousin's name to my paperwork in the first place. So they did a durable power of attorney, named the cousin, but now the cousin's mother is doing this. Can her mom step in and take over like that when it wasn't involving her? Well, the person that you gave the power of attorney to can delegate that authority to someone else. Just even if it doesn't say so in the power of attorney, you're presumed to be able to delegate that authority. You can hire agents. Okay, so could the mom actually be doing this? Possible. She has made me jump through hoops just to in the end threaten to get a conservator if try to revoke the DPA. Well, that would be appropriate, right? Because if you're disabled, and I don't know from the message here, the guy really is disabled, mentally incapacitated. But she has made me go with our food, gas, made me buy a car and drop thousands of dollars into fixing it, but never got fixed. Now it's broken, and refuses to let me get a new car with the money. She said, take the bus. My aunt has no right to say so, right? Because it's between me and my cousin since I appointed her. So if I get an order of protection on my aunt, which is not how that works, she can have zero involvement, right? What happens if I got an order of protection on my DPA? Revokes it, right? Yeah, more revokes it. Oh, well, now we got to get out of here. Well, we'll wrap this up when we get back. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Welcome back to the David Carrier Show. Welcome to 2023. This is our what do you say? Inaugural radio show for 2023. Welcome. Pop the corks. How many people do you think? I was talking to somebody else about this recently, about the whole way of celebrating the New Year's. Don't you ever watch those TV shows and think, man, I'm glad I'm not there? Those so-called parties. Isn't it true that most of those parties happened like months ago or something? I don't know. They just seem kind of lame to me. Um, the fake excitement and, now of course everybody's got to be kissing everybody and it's like, okay, yeah, why not? I guess. And then you see the people who are dressed up, especially so that they can be, they find those people on the camera. It's like, well, okay. I don't know about you, but after the ball drop, I'm ready for I'm ready for Betty Bye. Um, you know, uh, you know, uh, I don't know. The idea that you would spend the night, you know, getting schnockered and then spend the first day of the new year with a hangover or something. It's like not sure I see the utility of that. But anyway, let's get back to our poor soul over here. Well, maybe we can wrap this up. So this is somebody who starts out wanting to commit Social Security fraud, right? This is the fella who has a durable power of attorney, and the point is to hide an inheritance from Social Security. Now, most Social Security programs are not means tested. If you're on disability, you got some sort of disability, and then the disability income itself is not going to be means tested. So whether or not you got an inheritance is meaningless. And then now maybe they were getting supplemental security income, SSI, because they were at the deep in the depths of poverty, right? And so they're getting a little bit extra money for that. Well, okay, well, if you get inheritance, right? But most of those programs, again, are income tested, not asset tested. Okay. So if you get the inheritance, then it's not going to count anyway. And there's disagreement about, is it income in the month that you receive it? So you're off your benefits for that 1 month and then you get it back. There's discussion to be had there. But the idea that you're going to be able to hide it, because here's the other thing, when that estate gets distributed, if there's any income, the 1099s are going out, right? We're going to report it. If there's any income, report that out to the, most of the time, report that out to the beneficiaries. So, what a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. Now, here's the concern, that the fella made his cousin the agent under the power of attorney. And now it's the cousin's mother who's gotten involved and is making all the decisions. Well, here's the thing. A power of attorney is when you say to somebody else, anything I can do, you can do for me. Well, that person is not helpless, okay? The person that you name under the power of attorney, the person that you name can get help, can hire agents, can hire attorneys, physicians, repairmen, whoever they want to carry out the terms of the power of attorney, including delegating authority to another person. They can do that, right? They can hire an agent to help them out. And that's one way of looking at what's going on here. The other way is the agent under the power of attorney, even if it is your cousin, can ask her mom for advice, right? And listen to what mom says. And if they do that, if they get counsel, if they get advice and they're doing what mom says, and they tell you, hey, go talk to mom because I'm taking her advice. Well, there's no violation there, right? They're still using their own judgment, right? Or if they've delegated the authority, then directly with the aunt who's now making decisions that you did not want her to make decisions. Okay, so that's the thing. Now, can you revoke the power of attorney? Yes, you can. And if you revoke the power of attorney, are you going to have to go to probate court and get a conservator? Maybe. But it's the purpose, it's the function, it's the job of the conservator, of the agent under the power of attorney for disabled people to spend the money wisely. Now this is somebody, made me buy a car. Well, who said you, and made me drop thousands into the repair? The car's broke anyway. Well, wait a second. How did you have control over the money? Right? If you've got a conservator, if you've got someone with durable power of attorney who presumably is holding the money for you, how did they make you buy a car? I guess they could have bought the car for you, right? And then fixed it up or tried to fix it up. And then what happened? Did you not change the oil? Did you break it? What happened? And now they want a new car. Well, I don't blame you for that, I guess, but still in all, is that the thing that makes sense? Who knows? But that's why you have someone with the DPOA. Now, they are saying that, the order of protection on my aunt. I mean, I think what they're talking about there is getting a protective order to replace an agent under a power of attorney. Well, you don't really need that. All you need is to revoke the power of attorney. You can't do, somebody who's competent cannot do an irrevocable power of attorney. You always have the right to revoke the thing. Now, the fact that they're talking about protective orders suggests that the person writing the email, right, this person, is not competent, is not mentally competent. And in that case, because they're not able to act on their own, I guess maybe they've been found to be incompetent, maybe mentally incapacitated. If they've been found that way, then they can't act on their own behalf. Now they have to act through the probate court. So you got an incompetent person, legally incapacitated person, perhaps, going to the probate court to say, hey, I want to revoke that power of attorney. Well, generally speaking, probate courts are fine with rejecting or revoking, I should say, revoking powers of attorney. They have no problem doing it because they've got another technique, they've got another method of dealing with that situation, which is the guardianship, conservatorship. Okay. So it's like, yeah, the power of attorney didn't work. That's okay. I got this other thing called guardianship, conservatorship that does the same sort of thing. So that's what I'm going to use. This is, I think, why probate courts are not reluctant. And by the way, if you're doing a guardianship conservatorship, it's even better because now there are annual reports and I get to look at those and we get to actually monitor what's going on here. So the probate court is fairly sympathetic to the idea of doing guardianship conservatorship, right? Because there's more checks and balances. Now, it greatly, I'm all against it because it greatly restricts what you can do, your authority. But it is another way of getting that job, done. And that's probably what's going to happen here because if you revoke the power of attorney and you're incapacitated, now you're going to probate court. And the money probably was safe anyway. You didn't need to plan to defraud Social Security. You're probably just fine. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney, inviting you to give us a call, 616-774-2424. Happy New Year. Hello and welcome to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. You have found the place where we talk about estate planning, elder law, real estate, and business law. This is New Year's Day, so welcome to 2023. Let's make it a good one, shall we? What do you think? Not a bad idea? Yeah, I think it's a pretty good idea. Why not? This is this is the show where we talk about estate planning, elder law, real estate, and business law. So if you have a question, comment, or concern about wills, trusts, or probate, if you're wondering, how do we beat the high cost of long-term care? God, how many times have I said that? I got to come up with a new intro, don't you think? If anybody wants to help me out, just give me something, right? Send it to david@davidcarrierlaw.com. I guarantee we'll erase them before they show up. No problem. No, I mean, we will seriously consider every potential option. Anyway, real estate and business law. So if you have a question, a comment, or a concern about any of that stuff, right? If you're looking to start a business and it's not a bad idea, stop a business, whatever it is you want to do, now's the time. Give us a call, 616-774-2424, 616-774-2424. Did you get into an argument with someone at Christmas or Thanksgiving and they said something really stupid about trusts or wills or powers of attorney or how the inheritance ought to go or something like that, and you're just burning to get an authoritative answer, well, this ain't the place. But I can give you a radio show answer, which is not legal advice, although we can have a lively legal discussion. So I'm probably at least as good as your neighbor over the backyard fence. No guarantees, but probably. Seriously. So if something came up during your discussions over the between unwrapping the presents and getting down to the stuffing, we'll knock the stuffing out of any question that you may have. All you have to do is give us a call, 616-774-2424. Remember, it's a new year, right? So there's all kinds of things you can do, right? It's a clean slate. Is it? No, of course it isn't. Got all your history behind you. Isn't that silly when people say, oh, it's a new year, it's a clean slate, wipe the slate clean? It's like, there are some religious denominations, Catholics for one, where you can go to confession, you wipe the slate clean and get started. But, you still get all your baggage, right? Forgiveness is great. And forgive and forget, right? Well, forgive, certainly. You got to live with you got to be grateful for all the gifts God's given you and, forgive other people, of course. Yeah. But, if you go into the, fool me once, shame on me, shame on you, excuse me, how that goes. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? And there's that element of it. And so, yeah, it's 2023. It's a brand new year, but inflation is still raging. We've got some idiots overseas trying to kill each other, mostly one invading the other. And then, it's craziness, right? There's stuff still going on. We got to still deal with that stuff. You can't just say it's a new year. So, but at the same time, the calendar has changed. The numbers have changed. And now's the time to say, a good time to take stock, right? To look around you and say, are things going the way I want them to go? Am I doing things the correct way? Am I thinking about things correctly? Why not take the opportunity? Those New Year's resolutions that you've done, and my now almost tomorrow 15 years old, he's like, well, because we're talking about New Year's resolutions and stuff. He goes, well, it doesn't make any sense to do these vague general New Year's resolutions because you can never decide whether or not you met them, whether or not you complied with your New Year's resolution. So it's one thing to say, oh, I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to be more generous. I'm going to, blah, blah. That's all good, and let's hope we are better people. But how do you know? How do you know if you made it? How do you know if you did it? Whereas if you say, I'm going to do a half hour in the elliptical every morning, get up extra early to do that, and then do another half hour in the afternoon or in the evening. Well, that's something you can write down. That's either you did it or you didn't do it. And you can argue about why you did it, why you didn't do it like that. It's up to you. You can decide that, right? But either you did it or you didn't. Do you see? And that's a lot different than, oh, I'm going to be a better person this year, or, oh, I'm going to do what? I'm going to be more kind. Well, it's good to be more kind. I want you to be more kind. You should want yourself to be more kind. Now measure that, right? Do a good turn daily, as the Boy Scouts say. Well, as the Scouts say, do a good turn daily. Well, what's a good turn? Now you get into all lawyer type talk and it goes out the window. Whereas if you set yourself a New Year's resolution, I am going to get my estate plan done. Well, what does that mean? Well, I did a ladybird deed, so it's done. Ha, ha, ha. No, it ain't. I'm glad you're thinking about it, but you don't have it done. Come on now. So, maybe getting started on some of this stuff, some of this life planning stuff would be a good idea. What does that mean? Well, maybe this is the year you go to a workshop. Maybe this is the year you actually set some stuff down. Okay. You haven't accomplished the goal. You haven't fulfilled it, but at least you're moving in the right direction. And, so long as we're moving in the right direction, it's better than not. Although there are things people do that don't help very much. So here's a good one. Yeah, well, just to share, one of my attorneys was meeting with a family the other day, and the fee was more than they expected. And this guy just out, and it's a situation. He's in his 80s. All right, the fella's in his 80s. Spouse has dementia. It's one of those cases where they've been putting it off for so long. Putting it off has become a way of life. Right. And they're very comfortable. I mean, over $1 million comfortable. Right. And oh no, a couple $1,000 too much to spend. I can get that done at church for $800. Okay. Well, what do you want from me? I mean, do you want me not to pay the people, the paralegals? Do you not want me to pay the people at the front desk? I mean, who is it? Who's it you want? Anyway, that was one of those situations, where the expectations were a little bit different. And as a consequence, well, somebody's put it off for 80 plus years is going to keep putting it off until they go broke. And that's how people go broke. That's how people like that. They go broke. It's like they don't want to hear it. They won't hear it. And then they get into a situation and then it's just too late, which is really unfortunate because it's so unnecessary. But that does happen. So this email is a good, made me think of that occurrence from last week. So this is a good one. It says, can I get a POA with only one parent's consent? I am my parents' caregiver and live next door. Dad's dementia is a thankless task, huh? Plus, I got to tell you, the number of kids actually doing this used to be everybody did it. Used to be a lot of people did it. Not anymore. Anyway, Dad's dementia is getting worse and now is angry. That does happen. And the paranoia, oh my God, with the dementia. And he won't consent to a power of attorney. Okay. Mom is still quite coherent, but she's getting tired and slow and does want to grant me power of attorney. My sister, only sibling, lives in Canada, does agree with the POA. She's a U.S. citizen, but has lived in Canada for over 30 years. Putting up with Justin Trudeau and the rest of that ilk. Okay, fine. And does not plan to return to live in the States. Well, that doesn't matter. I mean, she can be Canadian and still be an agent under the power of attorney, be your backup if that's what you want. What are my options? Thank you. And the thing is, you can't get, power of attorney is a voluntary act by one person to another person, right? So if mom says, okay, honey, I want you to make decisions for me. Here, I'll sign this piece of paper that says, I'm letting you, daughter of mine, make decisions for me. Sign my name to documents. Well, mom can do that for mom. What mom cannot do is do it for dad. All right. Mom cannot sign a piece of paper that gives you the authority over dad. Now, if dad, he says dementia getting worse, well, if he's at the point right now where he's not able to manage things and he won't sign a power of attorney, then probate court is your only recourse. And it, I hate to say it, but now's the time for some hardball with dad. He's got to get with the program here. And if he doesn't, then he's going to wind up in probate court. And then maybe that will induce him to sign the power of attorney. But you really need to hold his feet to the fire because it's going to be one or the other. That's the deal. And you need healthcare and financial powers of attorney. So that's what I would say. Can you get it with only one parent's consent? Yeah, but only for the one parent. You can't get it over the one who does not consent. But then your option is to take him to probate court, get the guardianship, get the conservatorship set up. It's really unfortunate because it eliminates a lot of the things you could otherwise do. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Welcome back to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Now is the time to give us a call, 616 616-774-2424. That's right, 616-774-2424. Same in 2023 as it was in 2022. So there you are. What are we going to do this year, huh? What's new for you? What's the good thing? Let's see. Let's get to some of our, we'll keep going with the emails. What do you say? I mean, if you're not going to call me, if you're going to call, that's easy. 616-774-2424. That's 616-774-2424. And we'll get your question, comment, or concern on the air, right? But if you don't call me, then what? Well, now you're stuck with me, yakety yakking, or going to the emails. Well, you have the power to decide what we're going to do. So here's a good one. How do we protect a parent's wealth? My brother-in-law and his wife. Why don't you say my sister and her husband? That's kind of a tell right there, isn't it? My brother-in-law and his wife keep coaching my wife's dad. Oh, I see how that works. It's not so my sister-in-law. Okay, got it. So you're the brother-in-law. You're brother-in-law to both of them. Got it. Keep coaching my wife's dad to gift them large amounts of money, $50,000 and up. My wife has been in charge of his money for years, but is careful with spending. He's near requiring 24-hour care, and we want as much resources as possible help with his care. We've been told they're nearing elder abuse, but can't find local help. Well, if he needs 24 care, right, then depending on how much he's got, it's going to run out sooner or later. This idea of gifting money at this point without a plan in place is insanity, right? Because there's a 5-year look back on any gifts like this. So it just raises so many questions, which we shall return to after we talk to Bob. Hello, Bob. Welcome to the new year.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So I just have a quick question about a trust.
Sure.
I have a client that does not want to name their trust as a beneficiary because they said the trust has not been registered or that it has not been filed, and I'm not sure what they're referring to.
Well, you can go to probate court and register a trust, or you can go to the Register of Deeds and file, and record a copy of it. I don't know why you'd want to do either one of those things. The idea that you would not make, are you like a financial advisor or an insurance guy or what?
I am.
Yeah.
I am.
It makes no sense.
Okay. That's what I thought.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean, you can register them.
I mean, the trust is valid regardless whether they file it or don't file it.
Absolutely. And
Okay.
the thing is you don't want to go to probate court and register that. You wouldn't want to, simply because one of the major advantages of the trust is that it's confidential, right? I mean, you don't go passing out copies of the trust, not even to the benefit. Now, if the beneficiaries want to play, I'll show you mine. Well, they can do that, but they're only each beneficiary is only entitled to the portion of the trust that relates to them. So there's a high degree of confidentiality going on with the trusts, and why you would insist on breaching that in order to make it effective, in order to fund it, because that's what you're doing, right? Which is just an absolute breath of fresh air to me. That that you're doing that. That's great, because nobody does it, hardly anybody, and I'm
right,
all in favor of doing it.
And
absolutely.
I think that's what they're thinking, is that the trust has not been funded, and so that makes sense.
Oh,
yeah, okay.
So they're confusing the terminology. Yeah,
Right.
yeah. No,
exactly.
You're doing the right.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're absolutely doing the right thing.
All right. right. Thank you.
You betcha. Thanks for calling. Yeah. So we've got a financial guy, insurance agent, and he's making sure that people are funding the trust, which is, as I say, wonderful. I'll tell you, I would have a lot less to complain about with trusts if we had more financial advisors like this guy who are willing to like Bob here, who are willing to step up and help the client get the thing done. Now, I had not, I got to tell you, I had not heard that failing to register or file the trust was an excuse for not funding it, for not putting the assets into the trust. That's what funding is, just retitling assets to the trust. With insurance products, there's a little twist there where you could say, see, here's the thing with insurance, and so it's not simple, but you might say with insurance, as opposed to other financial products, with life insurance, if you owe, let's say you die and you owe money to somebody, right? Your life insurance goes to your beneficiaries free from the claims of those creditors. So if you have $100,000 in the bank, right, in your name in the bank, and you die, right, then that $100,000 is going to satisfy the claims of your creditors. And for most trusts, the way they're done, right, that money would also be available to your creditors, the people that you owe money to. So let's say you have $100,000 in the bank and you owe $50,000 on a credit card, let's just say, right? And then you die. Well, the credit card people can go after the $100,000. Now they'll only get 50, right? Plus interest and whatever, but they'll get half of it. See? And your revocable living trust, right, which under law is answerable for your debts, right, isn't going to protect that. Now, if you have $100,000 of life insurance, it's different. With $100,000 of life insurance, that life insurance money will go directly to the beneficiary, free from the claim of your creditors. We'll wrap this up when we get back. You're listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney, and we're playing the fight songs of all the local teams that made it to a bowl game this year. So see if you can identify which is which. Oh, yeah. Was that a game last night or what? Was that a game? That was a game. You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. We're probably going to get in copyright trouble for this much. But who cares? It's a new year. It's a clean slate, right? Forget about what you did last year. We're starting over once again. Now, let's get back to why we had an insurance guy, financial advisor, Bob from Holland, called in, was wondering what clients were thinking when they said, oh, well, we have to register our trust or file the trust or something like this. Well, you can register it. You can go to probate court and register it. It's just, why in the world would you do that? Because you're giving up the confidentiality, right? You're giving up the confidentiality, which is a big part of why folks do trusts. Right? But let's look at the bigger question. I mean, why would people be reluctant to put a life insurance policy, and they are, to put a life insurance policy into a trust? And the answer is life insurance policies are a little different. And you got to understand, Michigan is one of two states in the whole country that have some other provisions that most people just completely blow off. They're not aware of them. And I mean, estate planning attorneys do this in order to protect your assets. Okay. And most people ignore it, but we don't ignore anything. Anyway, here's the deal with life insurance. Okay. Now, if you have a question, you can interrupt me anytime. 616-774-2424. 616-774-2424. And I will get back to the email. Now, here's the thing. you have 100,000 in the bank, you owe 50,000 on credit cards or whatever, however you owe the money. And the money is either in a revocable trust or in your name, it's going through probate. That money is going to stand for your debts. Okay. Your creditors have a right to come after that money. Not surprising, is it? Right? You owe money, you have money, you got to pay it. Even after you're dead, you still got to pay it. Your estate has to pay it. But it's different with life insurance. So let's say you had not $100,000 in the bank, but you had $100,000 cash value life insurance, right? Now, if you got sued while you were alive, they could come after that life insurance policy. Yes, they could, because it's cash value, right? You can execute on that. But instead, let's say that you've died and now the death benefit, right, which is at least partially funded by that cash value, is now going to your beneficiaries. Well, your beneficiaries get the money free of any claims of your creditors. Are you with me on this? Right? So you got 100,000 of life insurance, your creditors aren't getting the money. You have 100,000 in the bank, creditors are getting the money. All right. Now, if you put life insurance into a revocable living trust, right? Now your revocable living trust answers for your debts. Okay. So what you did was you took the proceeds that would have gone to the beneficiaries and you're putting them in the typical trust that people do. Right. And now you've given up that asset protection. So when people say, whoever say, oh, you don't ever want to put your life insurance in a trust, well, they have a reason for saying that. There actually is. That's not unreasonable. Okay. Now, what if you did a trust that was protected from your creditors? So your creditors couldn't get the money anyway. Right? Well, you say, well, yeah, but it's going to my beneficiaries anyway. Why worry? I don't have to worry about that. Why would I what's the big deal? Why would I fuss with this? Because it's going to creditors anyway. Now, here's the second step. And here's what everybody ignores. Almost everybody ignores. And that is, what's going on with you. Okay. You know what's going on in your situation, who you owe money to, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. And you can plan, well, I'll do life insurance instead of keeping it in the bank. I'll do this and that, right? To make sure that the assets go to the kids, go to the beneficiaries. Well, what's going on with the beneficiaries? Maybe they're getting divorced. Maybe they're in bankruptcy. Maybe their business is failing. Maybe. You don't know. And because you don't know, right, what folks do is they just say, well, okay, it's not going to get, my creditors are not going to get it. I'll just give it to the kids and that'll be fine. What if we took a look at that and said, well, wait a second. If I make the trust, the proper kind of trust, the protection trust like we do, asset protection trust, if you make the trust the beneficiary so that your creditors can't get it, which you can do, what if we also set it up so that your beneficiaries' creditors couldn't get it either? Are you with me on this? See, everybody's like, ooh, life insurance passes free of the claims of the dead person, which it does. Right. Well, that's all great. Now I'm delivering the money directly to the kid. I'm like, okay, but what about the kid? What if the kid owes money? What if the kid's, bad things are happening? Did you protect it for the kid, not from the kid? I say kid, but it could be any beneficiary, of course, right? Is it free? Is it protected for the beneficiary, free and clear of the claims of the beneficiary's creditors? Do you see? We protected it for you. What about for the beneficiary? See, and the shame of it is that this is not done on even the most basic level, typically, right? You've done the trust, you set it up, right? You went through and you spent the money, you took the time, you did all You did what was necessary to be done to create this trust, and you're using like it's like I don't know. Go to McDonald's, right? Get a double quarter pounder with cheese, right? Throw away the cheese, throw away one of the patties and the bottom bun. All right. Get rid of scrape off the pickles and dump half the fries out the window. Okay. Along with half of the drink or most of the drink, or throw your Coke out and keep the ice. That you wouldn't do that. I don't think you would. It's a pretty unhealthy meal anyway. But the point is, if you're getting something that has a lot to it, right? Why would you throw away most of the goodness? Why would you throw away most of the capability of the damn thing? And that's what people do with estate planning all the time. And it's not your fault. I know lawyer didn't tell you, and that it did. I get it. I understand that. But that's the fact of the matter, right? Is even folks who've done estate planning, even folks who've got trusts, you didn't fund them 96% of the time. Even if you did fund them, again, I don't know what the percentage is on this one. I don't even have a survey on it. But I've never seen one other than my own that protect the beneficiary as well as the grantor. Okay. You got to do both. And if you do both, then your life savings are used effectively. Things go smoothly. Everybody gets the maximum. It's just one good thing after another happens when you actually look in depth at how to plan ahead. Number one, we take care of you. Number two, we take care of your beneficiaries. You like them, don't you? Right? There was a reason you made them the beneficiaries. Don't play. Now you see it, now you don't with them. That's all I'm saying. Been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. Welcome back to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney. So hopefully there we wrapped up the difference between, insurance, like life insurance and other types of assets, right? Conventional type assets. Now, there is some protection you can get for conventional type assets under the Estate and Protected Individual Code. That's available only in Michigan and I think Arizona. I think Arizona is the other state. But anyway, some really cool stuff that can be done. But before you get there, the most basic thing is to make sure it's protected for you and for the beneficiaries. Right? I mean, yeah, we can get really fancy with it, but you don't have to get really fancy with it. There's some basic stuff that can be done in order to, but people aren't even thinking about it, right? And by people I mean attorneys, financial advisors, people who hold themselves out there as estate planners. And it's, hey, I mean, this is not a new gong I've been banging, is it? I mean, this is just what I've been saying right along. Anyway, so don't don't give me your shocked whatever. I mean, most estate planning is done incorrectly by people who are not paying attention to it. I mean, what other conclusion can you draw when you look at the way that people are doing it? I mean, how can you convince yourself that people are actually thinking about this stuff, right? When you look at how it's been done, and the fact of the matter is, we get to see, and myself and my team, we get to see a lot of what people are doing, because an awful lot of people have some sort of estate plan, or they come in and say, "Well, I was told to do this and do that," and et cetera, and it betrays such a lack of understanding. Number one, about what the law actually is, and then a lack of common sense or lack of appreciation for what actually happens in life. And it makes you resolve to spend 2023 getting it right. That's what it does. Now, let's get back to the email that we talked about way back in the day before our conscientious insurance / financial advisor called in, Bob from Holland. And I can't tell you how much I do appreciate when we have a financial advisor, insurance guy, who is doing the Lord's work by getting this stuff done correctly. So unusual and so gratifying when you see it. Just absolutely love it. I'm tickled. Anyways, so let's go back to the email. We can knock this one out pretty quick, I think. Brother-in-law and wife keep coaching wife's dad to gift them large amounts of money, right? Wife is in charge of the money for years, careful with spending. So, get a lot. But he's close to needing 24-hour care. And we want as much resources as possible to help with his care. Good. Nothing the matter with that. That's what we want. We've been told they're nearing elder abuse, that the brother-in-law and the wife, elder financial abuse, I guess, can't find local help. Well, the fact of the matter is that wheedling, begging, pleading, crying, none of those things are financial abuse, right? And your wife has been in charge of the money, so she's not giving into it, right? So anything that somebody does, even I'll never speak to you again, right? Unless you give me a bunch of money. Well, that's not undue influence. I mean, it stinks. It's not good for families or anything, and it's not good for dad, and it's not good, but it's not illegal. Begging and pleading. There goes half of family relationships that we give up begging and pleading. But anyway, so yeah, probably not elder financial abuse, but without more, you're gonna have a tough time. But here's the thing. If it's not crazy that dad would be providing $50,000 or $100,000, whatever it is, right? And he's needing 24-hour care. Now, my thought immediately goes to, well, how do I get that care paid for? In the context of now it's 33 years we've been at this, since 1990, 33 years. How do we get dad qualified for the government programs, Medicaid? He's qualified for Medicare. He's qualified for Social Security. He's been getting benefits from those government programs. Why not from the long-term care government program? And this is not to say that his money should not be used for him. I'm saying his money should be used for him to supplement, right? For the extras, because Medicaid provides, and now it's $12,000 to $15,000 a month for it, right? But Medicaid provides that base level of care. Okay, great. I got my base level of care is covered by the Medicaid, my tax dollars at work, and then I'm going to use my own life savings to supplement that. How is that a bad idea? I don't get it. Especially when we've seen people go from substantial amounts of savings, life savings, and I'm not talking even, you got 100,000, 200,000. That's a significant amount of money. And added to Medicaid, that can make a huge difference in your quality of life, your spouse's quality of life, right? And still have some leftovers for the kiddies, if that's what you choose. But this idea that I'm going to burn through my life savings, and then when I've got empty pockets, then I'm going to go to the government and say, hey, help me out, will you please? Well, screw that. I'm not doing that. I'd much rather you be in a situation, this is what we do for our clients anyway, that you be in a situation where you qualify for the benefits that you've paid for. You already qualify for those benefits, right? And you receive those benefits, and then you use your life savings to supplement, right? I mean, why should you get what the people who didn't save, who didn't plan ahead, who didn't do the good things like you did, right? Why should you settle for what they're getting? Now, look, I have no problem with, people who are indigent, what have you, getting benefits. Okay. Much better than they be sleeping in the gutter or not getting care that they need or something like that. Yeah. Okay. I'm fine with that. Good. Let's take care of those folks. But why shouldn't the people who worked and paid for it, for them, why should they get a lesser deal? right? I mean, how did that become fair? Oh, you saved. You went to the casino and you spent all your money. You lived your life on a credit card. You went bankrupt 3 times. Come on down. It's all free for you. Oh, you were frugal. You were financially responsible. You took care of things. Right? You have a 401k. You have some life savings. Therefore, you get nothing till you're broke as that guy. What? Because the fact of the matter is you can't afford to pay for this stuff. You say, well, I got my life savings. That's what I'm going to pay for it with. No, you're not. Go price some of this stuff. All right. $60 for a nurse or somebody to come out and sit with you, $30-$40 an hour. Are you kidding me? Can't afford it. Got to be smart about it. Let's make that our New Year's resolution. How about that? You've been listening to the David Carrier Show. I'm David Carrier, your family's personal attorney.